Hello. It is a very peaceful and calm morning with a clear sky, and the sun is just about to rise, and I'm walking with my bicycle in my hand here on the path on the outskirts of my town in Chico, where I live. And I like to be here because there's no traffic and there's no noise. Yeah. Look how pretty these rosemary bushes, they have bloomed, or they are still blooming. And all these little flowers, they fall on the ground. You see also, I do not know if you can see it well, in this field there's lots of flowers coming up, and that's always the case in springtime. There's lots of flowers around here, especially the California orange poppy. Yeah, I like that flower. It's such a nice sign of springtime. I've said this before, but I want to say it again at this moment, that there are many things I am able to talk about which I don't want to talk about, and which I don't talk about because I don't need to, I don't feel compelled to. I have understood that it is not good for me to talk about these things. And so I just, without any problem, not talk about what I don't want to talk about. And in doing so, I get to talk about what I want to talk about. And that is, of course, also the importance of not talking about what you don't want to talk about, and knowing also that it's very important for you to recognize that you talk about a lot of things which, upon consideration, are not really the things you want to talk about. So when you keep talking about these things that you don't want to talk about, or you don't even know that you don't want to talk about them, you will never be able to get to what you want to talk about. And yes, it could be that there is stuff that you don't want to talk about, which appears, of course, as if it is something you want to talk about or have to talk about, or you feel compelled to talk about it. And yet your compulsion, your mechanism, if you will, you are triggered by this or by that to talk about stuff. Have you ever talked about the mechanism that is involved in your tendency to talk about stuff that you don't want to talk about? Because there is, of course, a reason why you keep talking about stuff that you don't want to talk about. There's a reason why you fear talking about what you want to talk about. Yeah? And all of this is going to become clear if you begin to talk with yourself and begin to consider with yourself. You just tell yourself, like, is this what I want to talk about? Is this what I want to say? Is this what is meaningful to me? Is this what I like to do? Because you are the one who's saying it, you're the one who's doing it, you're the one who's making a big deal out of all these things. Is it doing you any good? Is it benefiting you? And then you can say for yourself, if that is so or if that is not so, and then you can begin to say like, well, maybe I shouldn't be talking about these things that I talk about, or maybe I should talk about it in a different way. That could also be the case. So talking about certain things is one thing, but in what way are you talking about? Let's say, for instance, you're talking about yourself, okay? You're talking about your experiences. You're talking about your life, what is happening in your life, your relationship, your work, your goals that you try to achieve, what is important to you. And so how do you talk about that? Do you talk about that in a way that that you get to know yourself, that you feel like, this is really what I'm about? Does that way of talking capture your experience correctly? Does it add anything to your reality, or does it take you away from your reality? Does it distract you from your reality? Does it prevent you from actually feeling what you're feeling, experiencing what you're experiencing? Does it make you say things which do not really get to the point of what it is that you are faced with, that you are challenged by perhaps, or struggling with, or what is troubling you? And so the adjustment in the way you speak with yourself is then necessary to be able to talk about what you want to talk about. And perhaps it is not the topic itself that is something that is bad for you to talk about. No, it is the way in which you talk about your life, yourself, your experiences. Let's say you're never good enough or something like that, right? And you're always trying to improve yourself, and you're always trying to do better. And in principle, there's nothing wrong with that, to strive to become better. But if you hear yourself say that, and if you notice how you are actually troubling yourself, beating yourself up for never really being good enough, you're always trying to improve. You can never take a break from your obsession to push yourself, and you are actually always fighting. You always have some sort of a notion about what you want to be, and you are not it. You need to be better than what you are. You need to do more. You need to change in this or that way, or your life is not what you want it to be. And so you keep on hearing yourself say these things, and you go like, you can just like I do, talk with yourself and look yourself in the face. I'm looking at myself, and I'm looking, of course, I have my phone in my hand, and I'm just talking with myself. And now you are just talking with yourself, and you're saying, you don't need to be that way. You don't need to talk about yourself in that way. You can talk about yourself in another way, in this way in which you do not push yourself. You do not stress yourself. You do not hurt yourself, harm yourself. You do not hate yourself. Yeah? You're being good to yourself. And you can talk in such a way that you are good to yourself. I've walked a little bit and now I got back on my bicycle again. And I ride my bicycle down the street. Oh, it's such a nice morning today. And it's not cold. And it's going to be a beautiful day. And I have the day off, so I feel very happy that I have the whole day ahead of me. And I'm going to spend my day really well by doing what I like to do. I'm going to record a song. I have written a beautiful song yesterday night. It came out really good. It was a song that was at the time made by Pink Floyd. The song is called Echoes. And I have rewritten that song. And it came out really good. And somehow my words that I put to this song, because I have completely rewritten the song, I call it Water Underneath the Bridge. And my text, it just came out. I wrote that song. It has about 3 verses, and I wrote it in a very short while, and it was almost immediately wonderfully composed, in the sense that my text, I just love the text that I have created, and I look forward to singing it in a little while and recording it, because it came out really good. And so that is something I'm going to do. And yeah, as I was just saying to you, I've had my own issue, if you will, with always having to be something which I'm not, always trying to be something which I'm not. And every human being actually has this problem. And I hope that in this video you were able to recognize in me that I'm having embodied language. Yeah, I'm listening to myself. I speak with myself and I listen to myself. And so the reason that we do what we do and beat ourselves up, and the reason that we're always having a conflict between who we are and what we are trying to be, and the reason that there seems to be a dichotomy between thinking and feeling, it has to do with the way we talk. And this embodied language is the way in which we talk, in which we do not listen to ourselves. And then this so-called thinking and feeling, that too, of course, there seems a conflict between our emotions and our reason. But that is just a false dichotomy. The dichotomy is actually in how we talk about things overtly. Yeah? And so there is no inner thought, there's no inner language. And yes, you have feelings, experiences, your body feels a particular way, but it always deals with how do you express that verbally. And do you express that verbally in a correct way or in an incorrect way. And yeah, as I've said many times, how can it be correct? How can you express yourself correctly if you do not listen to yourself while you speak? Yeah? I walk on this path here, on this wonderful path where the sun is greeting me from across the hills. I listen to myself, and I use my language correctly. So if you happen to hear this, can you hear it? Can you feel it? Can you acknowledge that I use my language correctly? And can you also acknowledge that you, when you speak, when you do not listen to yourself, that you use your language incorrectly, and consequently you are pushing your language on your reality. You are forcing your language on the reality. Your language doesn't match with the reality. It doesn't fit with the reality. No, your language seems to, your language seems to distort the reality. And so, how do you speak? How do you talk? Yeah? And do you talk in such a way that you want to listen to yourself, that you hear yourself, that you can hear yourself, that you like to hear what you are saying? Yeah? Or do you speak in such a way, do you use your language in such a way, that you find it no good, that you do not do what you actually want to do, what you could do if you allow yourself to do what you want to do. So you do something which you feel like you have to do. You do something which you do because you're used to doing it, but you are not doing it consciously. You are not doing it because you want to. You're doing it because you have to, or you feel driven, or you feel almost like afraid also that if you do not do that, then what will happen? Yeah, you're afraid to let go of your pattern. Your pattern of what I call disembodied language. You're afraid to let go of the pattern of speech in which you do not listen to yourself. And of course, then in such a pattern, it's very typical for people to get carried away by what they say, and everything is only about, good morning, everything is only about the content of what they say. Yeah, so they're verbally fixated, they're very hung up on the content of what they say. They don't pay much attention to how they say it or to what they experience while they're saying it. No, they are not busy with anything else than with words. They are just obsessed with words, with definitions, with rules, with the description. The description, so to speak, is something different than the described. And I know there have been many people that have talked about this issue, but you can experience, while you listen to yourself while you speak, you can experience that what you describe is the same as your description of what you describe. Which is not to say, of course, that when I say when I say ice cream. Yeah, ice cream. I like an ice cream. Okay, the word ice cream is of course not the ice cream. We all know that. However, if I say to you, yes, I like an ice cream, and you happen to have some ice cream in your fridge, and you ask me, would you like an ice cream? And I say, yeah, I would like an ice cream. Then you give me an ice cream, yeah. So now we have a situation in which ice cream meant that you are going to give me the ice cream. And you make me very happy because I love the ice cream. But the point I'm making here is that, yeah, the word ice cream didn't distract from the ice cream. The word ice cream actually produced the ice cream, and here I am feeling satisfied eating the ice cream and being grateful to you for giving me an ice cream. And so this is a situation in which our language worked. Yeah, our language is effective. Our language, the speaker was saying something, the listener was listening, the listener understood the speaker. The listener became the speaker and said, yes, thank you, yes, please. By all means, give me that ice cream. If you have one, I would love to have one. So the listener also spoke to the speaker, to the first speaker. They took turns, and that first speaker opens the fridge, opens the freezer and gets out that ice cream and hands it to me. And yeah, isn't that beautiful? Language worked. It is a simple example, but if language works, we're happy, and we should acknowledge that. We have no clear understanding of language working and the happiness that pertains to effective, correct use of language. Yeah. But once you begin to listen to yourself while you speak, and once you begin to adjust your speech to what you want to say, and once you begin to leave out what you don't want to say, once you begin to understand that there are things you don't want to say, and once you begin to pay attention to how you say things, how do you speak about anything at all, you realize that how you are used to speaking, how you are used to speak, and also how you are used to the speaking of others, you don't want to speak that way, but you also don't want other people to speak that way either. Because you don't want to have that way of talking in which you do not listen to yourself, and you also do not want to hear other people talk like that. They talk at you. They do not talk with you. They cannot really be with you because they're not in touch with themselves. And so then their speech, what they say, it feels forceful. It feels as if they're dominating you. It feels as if they're manipulating you, as if they're pushing and pulling you. Yeah? But when you listen to yourself while you speak, you don't do any of that. And it is just so pleasant. It is so nice to be able to speak with yourself in the way you want to speak. And to know, this is self-knowledge, that you have your own way of talking. Yeah, that is what embodied language is. Embodied language is your own way of talking, which you totally feel pleased with, that you feel totally happy about, that you feel satisfied with. Now, And when you have expressed yourself in the way that I have now expressed myself, with your embodied language, by listening to yourself while you speak, then after you've spoken, you cannot avoid noticing this sense of well-being, this sense of spaciousness, this sense of happiness. And I always see this older gentleman who is jogging there. And you know there is no inner language. You know there is no language involuntarily going on inside of you. Because let's just face it, whenever you believe in inner language in your mind, that you have all these thoughts going on in your head, it's involuntary. It happens to you, supposedly, You are overwhelmed. It always keeps on going, so supposedly. It always is non-stop, noise in your head, so to speak, as people say. But when you listen to yourself while you speak, there is no such thing going on. And you know that there was never any inner language. And you have said to yourself that there is no inner language. You've said it a sufficient amount of time that you have counteracted by saying what you wanted to say, the things that you don't want to say. So by saying what you wanted to say, you want to say that there is no language inside of you. That is something you want to say because it is liberating to say that. And it is true, there is no... Even though you may still be having the conditioning history that it appears as if there is a mind, it appears as if there is language inside of you. But no, when you say what you want to say, when you listen to yourself, you know that this is not true. It cannot be true. There cannot be any words inside your head, sentences inside your head. It's impossible. It's not how your brain works. You don't have visions inside of your head, like visual imagery that you believe to have. You believe that you have an inner experience. This whole mirror neuron business, that you have a sort of a inner mirroring of what is going on, deals with that. It's all metaphorical mirrors. The mirror. No. You don't have any kind of mirroring going on inside of you. That is just the way you speak about it. That's just the way we talk about these so-called miraculous mirror neurons. But even when we are mentioning these mirror neurons, we are still using metaphors. And no, there is no such thing as a vision inside of you. You don't have an inner vision of something. That's just the way we talk. And that's the way we talk with disembodied language. Because in embodied language we are certain. There cannot be any inner seeing. You don't see with your inner eye things. You don't hear with your inner ear a voice that that is inaudible. So all of that is just how we talk. And so saying this is what makes the difference. That is what makes you counteract this so-called mind, yeah, because you say it and you know it, that it cannot be true, yeah. There's no way for you to see anything inside of you, but you talk that way and you have believed that, and now you tell yourself that it is just not true. It's just not true, yeah. And so when you have done your thing, so to speak, when you have spoken with yourself in the way you want to, and when you have also acknowledged what I was just saying, that there is no inner language, there is no mind, there's no speech that goes on privately, yeah, talking with yourself in your head. It doesn't happen. It's not happening. It's just a byproduct of the way in which we talk when we do not listen to ourselves. But now you talk in such a way that you do listen to yourself. And then after you have said that, after you have done that, after you have, to your heart's content, spoken about what you want to talk about, and after you have also addressed in the way that you want to address it the things that you do not want to talk about, yeah? Because you can speak about, let's say, your problem, you can speak about your stress or your fear or your frustration, but you can speak about it in a way that you say like, yeah, that really helps, that really makes it clear, that really makes it so that I gain a sense of control. I am not ruled by my fear. I'm not living my life based on my fear. I'm not living my life consumed by anger, by frustration, by stress. That's not how I want to live. That's not what I like. That's not what I don't do well if I experience my life in that way. So you let yourself know that you want to avoid these things, that you want to stay away from that you want to do something which is good for you, that you want to do what feels right for you. And yes, as I've said, you have your own way of talking in which you accomplish this, in which you put yourself on the path to achieve this, to further enhance this. That is your embodied language. And then as you have said that, as you have spoken, you can be quiet and in that silence, which is created by your ongoing embodied language, you experience your language enlightenment. And your language enlightenment isn't based on anything mystical. No. It is about you using your language correctly. And you know what you're doing. Even when language stops, yeah? When you're done talking, but you continue walking. And if you still want to say something more, you just say it. But you might be surprised how good it feels to be so still. And even though, like me, you might have been always believing that you had so much to say, after you've said what you wanted to say, it turns out that you don't have much to say at all. And it is such a relief to not have anything to say. It's such a freedom. It's such a liberation. I will continue to record till this path here, it goes on till maybe you can see in the distance this jogger that just passed, till I've reached there, and then I will call it a day. What a beautiful blue sky. And so I want to say something else. So embodied language is the language of bliss. Yeah. And bliss is very much needed in this world of chaos and conflict. There's no bliss. And what you have called bliss isn't bliss. It's just your infatuation with with inner language. Your belief in some sort of higher power or some sort of spiritual phenomenon is all got to do with your usual way of talking, in which you do not listen to yourself while you speak, in which you cannot have this conversation that I'm having. We could be having this conversation together, of course. And so instead of this conversation, instead of the real, authentic human interaction, both with ourselves and with each other, we have this whole false notion of spirituality. And of course, there are other ways to replace our, you could say, our natural inclination towards communication, because people do everything to avoid experiencing the tragedy that we do not know how to have embodied language. So that's why people are addicted, or that's why they develop all sorts of activities to keep them preoccupied with all kinds of nonsense. And religion is just one of them. But ultimately, what we're distracting ourselves from with all these activities is our disembodied language. And if we have embodied language, we come to terms with our history with disembodied language. I've come to terms with that history. And to the extent that I haven't yet, because extinction is a beautiful thing, but previous history can never truly be extinguished, because there are so many different reasons why a previous behavior can again be triggered. So there will always be that tendency to return to our conditioning history with disembodied language, in which we were not listening to ourselves. That's how we were conditioned. We were not conditioned to have embodied language. So even though we can experience our language enlightenment with our ongoing embodied language, even though that is the case, there will still be remnants of that history with disembodied language which occasionally occur. And yet that isn't stopping us, because we recognize, good morning, we recognize that is simply not what we want to do. We want to do this. I want to do this. I am doing this. And if you were doing this, you would also know that you want to do this.